Okay, couple days ago, I asked a lot of you what your hot takes for the Total Drama series were, and today is the video where I go over them. That's about it. Let's go! We got a lot of comments, so unfortunately I won't be able to go through everyone's, but there were a lot of them that I found particularly interesting, and those are the ones I'm going to be going over today. Our first hot take comes from someone by the name of Music Meltdown, and they say,
Dunkney is shit. Borderline abusive at spots. People call Priya and Caleb a bad couple. Just look at those two.
bold as fuck for you to accuse any couple of being domestically abusive after years of shoving Ratitude Dog down my throat, Adrian. But I kinda agree. Let's be honest first and foremost, Dunkney is not a couple that exists outside the first season. Island is the only season where these two characters actually seem to enjoy each other's presence, and after that it's just a rotating storm of these two being awful for each other. The thing that gets me is that if Duncan from Action and Courtney from the start of World Tour were together, there wouldn't be any problems. Action Courtney was just too entitled and too much of a perfectionist, and World Tour Duncan was a mistake. So honestly, I agree that these two are pretty bad together. Not like us though, we're obviously perfect. Ben Trapp says, Lightning is the most overrated character in Total Drama. I just don't find him as funny or as interesting as the rest of the cast, minus Stacy. He also shouldn't have made it to the finale. Instead, it should have been Joe, since she had a lot more dynamics and significance while Lightning was just kinda there. Although I do see why people like him. Words cannot describe how much I disagree with this take. Lightning is hands down one of the funniest characters in the series, and almost everything he says or does makes me laugh out loud. So just real quick, I'm going to give you a highlight reel of everything in Roti that I think makes Lightning hilarious.
Lightning is on a team of losers!
Come on, winning isn't everything.
Yeah! Stay here. Lightning and Sam capture their maggoty flag.
Maybe someone with a little more leg-foot coordination?
Yeah! Don't worry, buddy. Lightning will get you out after we win.
He's also good in All-Stars, one of the few characters who's not terrible.
Ha! Fish, you've been struck by lightning. Oh, no, you don't. Woo! Dang! This fishy is swimming back upstream. Arrogant? Be fair now. Look at me. Say yeah! What is taking so long? We don't
I have sand in my shorts.
I'm amazing.
Total Drama All-Stars, as we all know, is a bad stinky poo-poo season that no one likes. But I would argue that Lightning is in fact the best part of Total Drama All-Stars despite only being there for 2 episodes, a monumental feat which cannot be ignored. However, this is far from Lightning's greatest accomplishment, as I firmly believe that Lightning is one of the most based characters in the entire series, for as we all know, Lightning don't judge.
This ain't right. Man, I never kissed a Super Bowl ring.
And I've never kissed a guy.
Yeah. It's cool, dude. Lightning don't judge.
You know, you people today are really lucky that you get to grow up with the reboot, where you have characters like Wayne, who are openly supportive of their gay friends. This is the most we had back then. So yeah, Lightning's great, and I'm not gonna tolerate any slander coming his way. Next hot take. Kure says, Julia is a terrible villain and only got far because the writers kept dumbing down characters and pulling shit out of their ass so she could make it to the finale. What? You would spit such slander towards girl boss queen Julia? How could this be? I totally agree. Okay, maybe not totally because I don't think she's terrible, but I'm not Julia's biggest fan, and I kinda think she was more entertaining before the villain reveal. Pre-reveal Julia was, in my opinion, one of the funniest characters in a cast that is already a laugh riot. I really like the way she was written because it showed how much Total Drama had evolved since the early days when it began, I mean, 15 years have passed. Obviously, times change, people are different. And I feel like the Total Drama cast in 2023 really showed that. Pre-reveal Julia especially. Post-reveal Julia is just Heather for a new generation. And that's really not bad. I still do like this character. But the fact that this is by far the most popular reboot character, that just doesn't track to me. Like, I don't get it. She's good, but in a cast with Caleb and Priya and Z and the Hockey Bros, and especially Bowie, of all characters, she's not as good as most of them. I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave this section here because I'm probably going to be giving Julia her own video way down the line, and it is probably going to be titled something like, Why Julia Doesn't Work For Me, or something like that, just to kind of extend my thoughts on this. But to keep this section brief, I do agree with this take for the most part. Dodlet2 says, Pocketo is better than Revenge, Action, and All-Stars. Edit, also Disventure Camp is better than most Total Drama seasons. I'm not gonna sit here and claim that Pocketo Island is some misunderstood gem of a show. It's not. It's really shit, and its reputation is mostly deserved. But I do think there is enjoyment to find in it, as long as you're not going into it with the expectation that it's going to be on the level of World Tour, Action, Redonkulous Race, all the other good seasons. With most other seasons, you go in with the expectation that you're going to watch a bunch of teenagers compete for a prize, you're going to watch them intermingle, there's going to be drama, there's going to be relationships, and there's going to be a lot of characters that you genuinely like and that you're going to root for. That is not the goal with Pocketo, and I can tell this because none of the characters are rootable. Outside of Sean, Jasmine, Sky, and Sammy while she was there, these aren't characters that you want to see succeed. These are characters that you are meant to laugh at. And this is probably one of the most brutal seasons of the show, probably because you're gonna get most of your enjoyment watching these people suffer. These characters are mostly gimmicks, and if their gimmick is appealing to you, then you're going to enjoy that character. Obviously, judging by the background footage, you can tell that I like Rodney's gimmick a lot, but that doesn't work for everyone, and some people just want a serious show with drama and stakes like the original trilogy and the reboot. And while I do take some ironic enjoyment with this season, I have to admit that it is probably the second worst season in the show. I think All-Stars is worse, because that season really derails characters, and for this season, you can't really derail what's already broken. Disventure Camp kind of has the opposite problem because this show wants you to take it a lot more seriously, and I have a lot of trouble doing that considering the writing is spotty in places. I don't think it's necessarily fair to compare Disventure Camp to Total Drama because one of these is produced by a network and the other is produced by independent creators on YouTube. But, since you brought it up, I really don't think Disventure Camp compares to the good seasons of Total Drama. I think both seasons are better than Pocketo and All-Stars, but I can't really put them any higher than that. I will be making videos on both of them in the future, and when that happens, I'll let you know why. Multiple people insist that World Tour is the worst season. See, this interests me because used to be World Tour was considered one of, if not the runaway best season of the show. In my opinion, I can't agree with it being the worst, even though I know it has its flaws. I think Island is actually the worst of the original trilogy, but all three seasons are very good. There are definitely elements of this season that I can understand people not being a fan of. The love triangle, for example, is awful. This is the season that made me realize that I really don't like Duncan as a character. You also have Team Victory being completely filler, which, for fans of characters on this team, I can understand is very frustrating. You also have two brand new characters that you're expected to care about. Alejandro's great, probably one of the best characters in the series and easily the best villain. But Sierra is an acquired taste, and a taste that I don't blame you for not having. I'm not really sure what the goal for Sierra is. I don't know if she's supposed to be likable, funny, an antagonist, or whatever, because she's portrayed to be a creepy stalker, And that's not exactly something you want to give to one of the main characters of your season. I do not blame people at all for being distressed by Sierra's presence and the things she does to Cody. That's a big part of the season, and it really can't be overlooked considering how vital she is to this season. But personally, it's something I can kind of put aside because World Tour's strengths are really strong. I think Heather and Alejandro are one of the most compelling dynamics in the series. The locations they visit are very nice to see. And honestly, I just really like the challenges. It's a very pretty season. The background artists get to go off, which isn't something they really got to do in the previous 2 seasons. Songs are hit or miss, though. Max is my favorite character on Pocketo Island. You immediately strike me as one of those people who has an unhealthy obsession with Peridot and or Serpentius, and I fear for you. Fuck Max. Watching this purple-haired little fuckwit on screen is about as much fun as applying for electives at college, which I'm currently making this video to avoid doing. You might like this archetype, but I do not. The quirky, maniacal cartoon supervillain is a trope that I hate, and none of the characters in this trope are fun for me, aside from Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who is obviously the best. Max just feels like he's trying too hard. And it feels like the writers were trying too hard to make him funny and make him this crazy character, and it just feels so forced. I know total drama characters are based on stereotypes, but he never grew past his. Bad take. Zane says, the first 5 episodes of All Stars are peak. I'm dying on this hill. Well, I'm gonna die with you, because for the most part, I agree. I would say first 4 because I'm not really a big fan of Moon Madness. It's a little too crazy for my tastes, and there were a lot of elements of it that I wasn't fond of. But episodes 1 through 4 are really fun despite Gwen's attempts to sabotage all that. Lightning and Joe were really on point for the episodes that they're in. I've already talked about Lightning, but Joe was also really good, showing her strategic side early on and continuing to be a funny presence throughout the season. Or at least the 3 episodes she was in. These two only have a few scenes together, but all the scenes they do have are gold. Sam was also pretty good when they weren't just writing him as an Owen stand-in, but unfortunately these 3 characters were out too early to save an otherwise terrible season. It's a shame. Good take. Tyler says, I'm not sure if this is a hot take or not, but I want Z as the main comic relief character next season instead of the Hockey Bros. My guy, you do realize he was the main comic relief character of season 1, right? I feel like the next comic relief character has to be Damien, because at this point it's getting way too hard to goad him. He really needs a good season. Fun fact, the 2 lowest rated episodes of the reboot are both of Damien's elimination episodes. I thought that was interesting. Another one from Music Meltdown, Spud equals God. This is an incredible take and objectively true. Spud would beat Jesus in a death battle. Smarty Lion is out here repping my boy Caleb. I think it's pretty clear how I feel about Caleb at this point, so you know what I think of this take. Cringe username says, hot take, the Redonkulous Race is one of, if not the best season ever produced. Someone clearly didn't read the assignment because that is not a hot take. RR is one of the most universally beloved seasons outside of the original trilogy. We're gonna need something a little hotter. Some crispy dumbass says, Scott is the worst total drama Fuck, not that hot. Holy shit, this is you really believe this, don't you? Jokes aside, I've read everything you've said, and I understand where you're coming from, but I must respectfully disagree. First and foremost, what you have to understand is that Scott is working with half the screen time as most of the other villains in the series. 13 episodes really isn't a lot in comparison to the 26 that Heather, Alejandro, and Courtney had. So with the limited screen time that he did have, Scott was doing something a little different. Heather, Courtney, and Alejandro definitely aren't the same character, and their strategies were different, but for the most part, they all played as the strategic mastermind who had everyone else wrapped around their finger, and Scott is not that. It's hard to form a dramatic narrative with so few episodes, so Roti focused on making Scott an entertainingly funny villain, as opposed to one who's exceptionally smart. That's why you get so many scenes where he gets absolutely destroyed by Fang. I don't think he needs a motive, I don't think he needs a rival. The main thing that Scott really needed to accomplish was be entertaining and to pose an antagonistic threat in the season. And he did that very well in my opinion. Specifically, the main heroes of this season were Cameron, Mike, and Zoe, and he posed an antagonistic threat to them very well, until his exit where Lightning took over, which I don't think is a bad thing. I mean, other villains have gone very far in the season. I think him getting 4th place and not being a threat for the last 2 episodes, that's fine. He's not a strategic mastermind, and he doesn't need to be. He's a different kind of villain, and I think that was very necessary given this far into the series. You kinda gotta give Roti some slack because they were working with a lot less than their predecessors, and they did the best they could. I think Scott's great, I think he's a great villain, and no way is he the worst in a series with Mal and whoever you count as the villain for Pocketo. Sugar, Scarlet, Matt, whoever. There were a lot of people who suggested multiple takes in one comment, and I do appreciate that, but I'm just going to stick to one for right now, unless there are some really interesting ones. And in this case, I'm going to go with this one. Gwen X Duncan could have been a good ship if executed better, which is a take given to us by Alexa Cinematic Productions. I mean, yeah, they definitely had chemistry, and I could see why the two would be attracted to each other, it's just that the setup really wasn't there. The writers really wanted to make Dunkney work, and unfortunately that kinda got fucked over by executive meddling, and to that they have my utmost sympathies. It feels like the setup that they had when Gwen and Duncan were getting along in action was used as the basis for their relationship, despite the fact that it was originally presented as just Trent overreacting. Like, if you go back and look at the scenes where these two are supposed to be falling for each other, then it just doesn't work. It's not that it came out of nowhere, it's that there was actual evidence that these two specifically did not like each other in that way, and then they went back on all of that. But you could absolutely make it work with the right setup. The easiest way to do that would probably be have a season where Courtney is getting on Duncan's nerves, he starts to realize that they might not be compatible, and then he starts hanging out with Gwen, they get along, and Duncan's like, hey, you know, this chick's kinda cool, you know, maybe Courtney's not the girl for me, maybe it's Gwen. My Duncan is so bad, I'm sorry. But yeah, there are a million ways you can make this work. The main thing is that these two are a goth power couple. Just decent writing would make them the most popular couple in the series, but they had less than decent writing to work with, so yeah. Namibia says Priya getting lots of screen time is actually good. It means that in Season 3 we can see other characters get even more development. I'm gonna agree with you that her getting lots of screen time is good, but not for those reasons. I got another comment that addressed the same issue with Duncan, but since Priya's is a little more topical and also I like her more, I'm gonna use her to springboard into this next conversation. Total Drama has a lot of characters, and pretty much every character has their tight-knit fan base. The problem is, not all of those characters are going to get the same amount of screen time. And there's a reason for that, a very simple reason actually. Priya is a main character. She's arguably the main character of the reboot. And when you have a main character who is so essential to the season, like Priya, they're not just gonna go away in the next one. Owen and Duncan were the main characters of Island and Action respectively, and they had large roles in the seasons following that. Mike was the main character in Roti, and he won All-Stars. The plot was entirely central around him. Now you could argue that this isn't a good practice, and that everyone should get equal screen time, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that this problem did not originate with Priya. When I hear people saying that Priya gets too much screen time, I can't help but feel that they wouldn't have this problem if the character who got all that screen time was someone that they were a big fan of. Like, no one talks about how Julia has too much screen time because Julia is extremely popular in the fandom, and there's kind of a disparity there. Priya has unfortunately never been a super popular character within either season, and that's incredibly unfortunate considering she's easily my favorite character of the reboot. That'll be a video on its own time. I hear a lot from Damien fans, from Nichelle fans, from Scary Girl fans who are upset because they think Priya gets way too much screen time that could have gone to their characters instead. And I hate to break it to these people, but the reason that happens is because your favorite character is not a main character. And this has been a problem for a while. Noah and Cody and Ezekiel, they have a lot of fans, and people really wanted them to do well back in the day, but yeah, never happened, because they're not main character. I think Noah only got to that status at some point because everyone recognized how popular he was. That's why he was in RR so much. And believe me, having your favorite character get not as much attention as characters who you're not as fond of can be disheartening. Believe me, I'm going through Disventure Camp Season 1 right now. My favorite character is a pretty minor character in comparison to some that I'm not as fond of. But ultimately, I think Priya, and by extension, other characters who get a lot of screen time like Duncan and Owen, them getting that much screen time isn't too big of a problem. Dwayne and Dwayne Jr. are the best characters in the— fuck no, there's no way you actually think that. You've got like 100 characters to choose from, and your first choice is father and son? I'm afraid this is a certified cringe take. Dave is actually a good okay, thank God, my comment section has some sense. I'm gonna hit you with the Carfax. In my personal opinion, Dave is the best written character in Pocketo Island. Dave is a brilliant subversion of expectations. Given how much of a nice guy main character Mike was, you'd think Dave would follow the same suit considering how many similarities they share. But no, Dave is the bad type of nice guy. He's actually an incel. It adds to it because he was initially presented as, like, the most normal character in the cast. And I think that makes his eventual fall from grace and his turn to the dark side even better and more funny. This fucker gets rejected by Sky and starts howling at the moon like a wolf. How do you not find that hilarious? My advice to all the Dave haters out there is just don't take him seriously. If you do that and view him as a joke of a character, you'll have more fun with him. Now this one's interesting because Space Thing has been in my comment sections for a while, and I've picked up on the fact that they're kind of a contrarian. So I'm not going to take all these takes super seriously, I just want to analyze them. Alright, first off, Leonard and Max are the best characters in the whole franchise. The only bad campers are Jasmine, Sammy, and Amy. Yeah, that's a take. Dave Sky is more engaging and entertaining than— fuck, I fucked that up so bad. This is why I record with a goddamn script. I'm gonna skip that one. The only winners better than decent are Wayne, the Surfer Dudes, and Lightning. Sean, Sky, Owen, and Duncan are decent. Alejandro, Beth, and Heather are okay. Going to the play, fuck, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Good go off, King. Bowie is the worst character. Cringe. Beardo's Shy audition tape sucks and doesn't characterize him properly. I agree. Ella is miles better in Dramarama. I'm not touching that. And the theme song sucks, and so does all the music in World Tour. Honestly, is he wrong? Or they. I don't know. I don't know their pronouns. Very interesting take, Space Thing, but I must ask, because I believe you made one crucial mistake. Where the fuck is Rodney? Me and my screwdriver. I see them in my comment section a lot as well. Evidently, I forgot to bring them up during the World Tour segment, so I'll cover their second take instead. Dakota is one of my favorite characters, like top 20. Also brought up that Rodney is the hottest total drama character, which, like, Omega-based. I think most people really like Dakota, but I guess top 20 could be a little high for some people. I think it's fine though, because she actually had an arc. Now to be fair, it's not revolutionary or anything. She's a spoiled rich girl who learns the value of friendship and gaming. But, you know, for total drama, it's pretty good. Not a lot of characters get this kind of attention. I guess the mutant part is new. In my opinion, Dakota Zoid was, like, a step too far. I didn't really vibe with that. But for the most part, I like Dakota. I think she's a really good— well, not really good, but she's a good enough character. And I think she proves that Roti's cast is really slept on. From Nico Gaming, hot take, Impala should have made finale. Impala is a serpent and a traitor of the state! So those are all the takes I'm going to cover today. I'm sorry this video took so long to come out, even though this was supposed to be the short one. Also, all your opinions are valid, so don't take anything I say to heart. That's it from me. Make sure to like and subscribe. I can't believe I actually just said that. Oh my fucking god.